That mean the timer? Flux capacitor is fluctuating. All right, so we begin with Vayikra, chapter 14, verse 12. That's, of course, Leviticus. If you guys don't know, that's what it's called in English for some weird reason. Should be just Vayikra. What's wrong with that? Anyway, it says, Ve'lakach hakohen et hakeves ha'echad ve'hikeriv oto le'asham. That's our most important word for right now. Ve'et log hashamem, amen. Ve'henif otam tenufa lipne Yahweh. All right. So we'll begin with velakach because that starts first. You know this word, I'm sure. It's the idea of to take. It's used of a man taking a wife. It's to stick together like glue. It's that whole more than one together and becoming one thing. It has a lot to do with that. But sometimes it just means to reach out and take whatever's laying on the table or something. You know what I'm saying? And in this case, that is what we're doing. We're just to take something. And it says ha-kohen, so to be the Kohen who takes it. You give the verb, tell them what they're going to do, and then you identify who's going to do it, right? Because that's the proper way to do it. We speak English, we do it backwards. Just saying. Anyway, then ha-keves. I love that word. It's my favorite Hebrew word right now. It means the sheep. Just kidding. Well, no, it does mean that. I'm just kidding about it being my favorite word because now hot, I'm looking at that, and that's my favorite word. Whatever word I happen to be on at the moment, that's my favorite Hebrew word. Anywho, ha-echad. Well, you hear it, the one. Or the first. You could say the first. It would probably make more sense if you said the first, the first, what are we talking about? Sheep? All I could think of was keves. That wasn't going to help you. Then vehikeriv. Modern people, I think, would say it vehikriv, but this is a primitive language. Let's not forget. And in the day when you had no other cues, the language was spoken differently, and they would have said vehikeriv. They would have broken that up like that. I mean, it would have been more fluent than that, but I'm trying to make every syllable count so that you can hear it. But that's how it would have been spoken back in the time of the writing anyway. And that just means and bring. It's to approach, to come near. It's, bring that cup sitting on the table over there, over here to me. It's what you would think of, right? But it's also said of coming near to God. When you bring a sacrifice to the priest, you are said to have brought something near to God. And so sometimes they'll say, and bring near, because that idea of nearness, if you're bringing something from there to here, then now it's near, right? So that idea of nearness is part of this word. Then you have le asham. Now, I'm going to tell you what, it basically, you're going to read everywhere else you look. It's going to say fault, guilt, blame, which occurs or incurs, because if you've done something wrong, now you have incurred the guilt, right? That which anyone contracts, guilt, sacrifice for transgression, that doesn't really, because they're trying to make it a guilt offering, right? So they're saying it can be thought of as a sacrifice, but it's just the word for guilt, really, if you're following this line of thinking. There's this note in here that almost nobody could understand. It says, in the Mosaic law, there is a careful distinction between these sacrifices for trespass and sacrifices for sin. So the trespass is the guilt word, right? So there's a guilt sacrifice and a sin sacrifice. And they're like, yeah, there's this big difference here. And so we got to be real careful about making this big difference here, because you understand that le'asham is not the word for sin, right? So they're trying to make this the guilt offering. This is the transgression offering. And I know I've used those words and I've said those things, but I ran across something that I used to know but somehow forgot, and now I know again. Happens to be in this fabulous little book here. It's the Onkelos, Vayikra, by Drazina Wagner. It's a great set of books. It's a book of 5, has the Torah in it, commentary on it and all that, has it in Hebrew and in Aramaic, and the English translation and commentary. So it's just a great set of, and besides, Drazina Wagner are awesome. They do a really good job. This is the best I've ever seen, and as far as the work, it's even better than the Onkelos because it has all this other stuff. So anyway, it has all their commentary, and it has commentary from the sages and stuff like that. So it's a really good book. Anyway, of this word le'asham, here's what it says. Scriptures, le'asham could mean for his guilt, or be the name of the penalty offering. Well, if it's the name, how can you make it a penalty offering? In other words, it's the name of the offering. They're forcing penalty into it. They're forcing guilt into it. They're forcing transgression into it. Why are they doing that? Well, because the root word is the word that's used for guilt or transgression. Here's my issue. Is that really what it meant 3,500 years ago? I say no. I think from the very beginning, this was the name of a sacrifice, of this particular sacrifice that we're working our way through right now. So I've decided to stop calling it the guilt offering and call it the le'asham offering, because it is different. They're right about what they're saying. They're careful to make a distinction. Why were they careful to make a distinction? Because they had no real idea what the word means, by their own admission. Who was it? Rashi or may have been Sephorno. I don't remember who, but one of them says that they have to. Oh, it might have been Ibn Ezra. I don't know who. One of them said that they had to guess at the meaning, and they derived it by the context of the sentence. Well, if you've got the context of the sentence wrong, what are you going to do with your meaning? It's going to be wrong. So what I'm trying to tell you at this point is I'm positive that this is the name of the sacrifice and that it is not a transgression sacrifice, because you cannot believe the flaming hoops that the sages went through to turn it into the sacrifice that's made for the sin of slander. We've already talked about that a little bit, or maybe a lot. Don't really remember. So anyway, let's keep that in mind. Then it says log, and they're saying that that's a half liter. Well, that seems like an awful lot of oil for this particular thing. And I've never taken a half liter of oil and mixed it with a fistful, which is, we're pretty sure, the right amount because of the offering that we're talking about. That said, the rules of that offering are that it's a fistful. So you take a fistful of fine flour and throw it in a half a liter of oil. I'm not so sold on that, but I've never tried it, and there may be a reason for it. We should try it and see what happens. I think it would be great. All right, so then we have ha-shaman. Of course, that's the fat, right? So we're going to take that fat, or that oil. That you may read oil, you may read fat. They're the same thing. There is no difference. So it's a half a liter of fat or oil. And then it says henif. That's our next real important word. And and make wave, because it's written in the command style. To wave, to shake the hand. because the shaking of a hand is literally the waving of a hand, especially if you're doing it by yourself. Just saying. And then to give a signal, right? It's all those things. I mean, this is used for all kinds of stuff. So we're talking about we're taking this stuff and we're going to wave it around? Maybe. That's not the way the sages say it was done. They say it was done like this. And there is good reason for them to say that, and I'm with them on that one. I think it's a waving up and down motion, and they turn toward the east, turn toward the west, probably the north and the south, almost assuredly in all four directions. Anyway, so that's this. They're going to wave this thing, and it says wave it, and then it says tenufa, you will wave. It's the same word. So someone who says it's like this may well be right, because you know what happens when you say it twice, right? That's the intensification of it. So maybe God did mean just shake the shake the shake the stuffing out of it was what I was going to say, but hey, wait, it don't have any stuffing in it. Doesn't sound like it would. All right, it's wave it or shake it. Then it says lipnei Yahweh. So in the presence of God, before the face of God. And I hope I've told you about why, I know I've told you about why it says faces instead of face, right? Because he's a living God and his face is constantly moving and changing. So that's why you say God in plural. You never say it in singular like we do in English. That doesn't happen in Hebrew. But the lipnei, that's before the mouth, it's before the face. It's, all of this is the same thing, essentially. And so if you're making this sacrifice, you have to be aware that God is right there. He's not off on Pluto somewhere dancing with Xanos. You know what I'm saying? Or beating him up. That'd be more likely, right? No, he's right there. So what happens with the rest of the universe? Well, he's probably there too. He's a pretty big God, just saying. But anyway, let's look at what this says. This is my translation of 12. And the priest will take the first sheep and bring it with him for a let Asham offering, and half a liter of fat, and wave them. A wave offering in the presence of Yahweh, or before the face of Yahweh. You can say it that way. It doesn't make any difference. It'd be actually more literal to say it before the face, but I'm not sure you get the idea that it's in his presence. Either way, it's okay. Seforno states that Le Asham, or of course they say guilt offering, was made when people were in violation of the Torah. Then they go on to say that the violation is slander. Really? How do we know what law was broken? Maybe the person affected left his cigarettes at the bar last night. How do we know? We're just making it up. That's what's happening here. They say it's slander. Oh, based on what? You wouldn't believe the mental gymnastics you have to do to follow them to slander. Maybe he left his cigarettes at the bar, dadgummit. The violation of the Torah is physical impurity, literally. Think about it. We're talking about Zara'at. We haven't gotten off that subject. The skin disease, do you remember? And it was it didn't call it Zara'at. It was the one that gets on your head and your face that causes you to have to shave your eyebrows. You remember all that stuff? I hope so. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the last couple of weeks of lessons and you'll see what we're talking about, because that was all part of it. So the impurity here is not that they slandered somebody. It's not that they cussed or smoked or drank or whatever else you think is sin, even though none of those things are actually sin. They're bad for you, but it's not a sin. A sin is a violation of the Torah. Pure and simple. And just in case I've never told you guys this, I think that all Jews and all Christians need to memorize a single verse from the New Testament. Okay, Jews, that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to read the New Testament. I'm not asking you to believe in the New Testament. I'm not asking you to fall in love with Jesus and become a Republican. None of those things. But I would ask you to memorize one verse. Why? Because it's advantageous if you're Jewish. There is a verse in the New Testament, 1 John chapter 3, verse 4. It says, everyone who commits sin is also in violation of the Torah, comma. That means that's not the end of the sentence. That means there's more to this. Everyone who commits sin is also in violation of the Torah. Now, some of the New Testaments actually say Torah, some of the newer ones. The older ones called it the law, because the word for Torah got translated as law. The newer ones are actually putting Torah in there because we all know that's what it means. So, of course, I'm quoting my translation. Everyone who commits sin is also in violation of the Torah, comma, because Torah rebellion. It's because sin is Torah rebellion. You hear me, Jews? Sin is Torah rebellion. So when a Christian comes up and starts beating you over the head saying, you're full of legalism and bondage, and we live by grace and not the law, you can quote that to them. And if they have any brains in their head, they'll shut their mouth, right? But the reason why a Christian ought to learn it is so that they understand there's something wrong with their theology. Because when you run around saying that you're not under the law, my first question is, what law are you now allowed to break? Are you now allowed to commit adultery? Are you now allowed to commit murder? Are you now allowed to covet that stuff that belongs to your neighbor? Just what law are you allowed to break now? So there's something wrong here with that theology.
There's two people still on Meetup that don't know to go to YouTube.
Oh, we just realized there's two people that are still on Meetup. You're supposed to go to YouTube because Meetup's going to cut me off here in a couple of minutes.
They can switch to the messages and there's a link, or they can go to YouTube to Robert Allen.
Okay. You can either go directly to YouTube and just type Robert Allen in there and you'll find the live feed, or you can click on that message thing on the right side of your screen, and it has the actual link. Can they just click on the link, or do they have to copy it?
One of the people is new, so tell him to go to YouTube and click on Robert Allen spell.
On what?
Spell Robert Allen for this new guy.
Oh, in case you don't know, our last name is spelled the right way when everybody else in the world is wrong. It's Robert Allen, Allon. Go to YouTube and just type that in, Robert Allen, or all on, Allon. Okay. Sorry, we just now noticed that. Anyway, where was I? So we need to know what sin is and what sin is not. That one verse, written by a Jewish rabbi who lived according to the law until the day he died, wrote those words. He's also happens to be the rabbi who Jews know as Yochanan ben Zakkai. Just saying, you know what he wrote that's so important to us Jews? That's the same man. Yes, he wrote that verse in. Anyway, because it spells it out. If the Torah says you can do it, or says you can't do it, and you do it, that's called Torah rebellion. That's a sin. If it says you have to do it and you don't, that's Torah rebellion. That's sin. So that's a problem for Christian theology when they start saying we're not under the law, we're under grace, because the law is the grace of God. If you live by the law, then you are under grace. It's not pitted against it. It's essentially the same thing. So good to know. Anyway, so we're trying to make this thing, they're trying to make this some kind of sin has been committed. No, you don't have to commit a sin to be in violation of the Torah. Did you know that? Let's say you're on your way to the tabernacle, and just as you walk in the door, you trip over, somebody left a bucket there, and you trip over it, and you get yourself all dirty from the mop water. Have you committed a sin? No. But are you in violation of the Torah? Yes, you are. You've just become unclean, and you're supposed to be clean when you walk into that place. That is part of the law. So do you go to hell for that? No. Do you get penalized by God for that? No. What has to happen? You have to go get cleaned up. It's that simple. Well, that's what's happening here. You got a skin disease. You have to go get cleaned up. Now that you're healed, you got to wash your clothes. You got to wash your body. You got to wait a certain amount of time to make sure that you really are clean before you can re-enter. And then you make these sacrifices to thank God that he has healed you. This is not because of slander. Anyway, darn, my mouse isn't working at all. Oh, I think I have the wrong one. Oh, smacker. While we're at it, thinking the way that they've been thinking, maybe the priest should suffer in hell for making sacrifices since they are touching dead animals on the Shabbat. Maybe a moil should suffer in hell for circumcising on the Shabbat, right? I got one. Maybe we should pour a bucket of mud on someone we don't like just before they die so they can spend eternity in hell. I feel like I'm being ugly here. Kind of trying to be funny and ugly at the same time. But isn't accusing someone suffering from a skin disease that they're, accusing them that they're guilty of slander without any proof or reason for such an accusation? Isn't that called slander? Let's move on. Verse 13, it says, Veshachat et hakeves bi mekom asher yi shachat et ha-chatat ve'et. I got this thing in the way. Oops, still in the way. Ha-ola bi mekom ha-kodesh ki ka-chatat ha-asham hu la-kohen ha-kodesh kadashim hu. All right, so we got some important words here. Veshachat. You should remember that word. We've talked about it an awful lot. That's slaughter the animal. That's the word for slaughter. Hakaves. Remember, a while ago he took the sheep. Now it says slaughter the sheep. Be mekom. Well, that's not really it's kind of a word, but it's a sound that you add to the word. The word is comb, so we say mekom. So we say be mekom. So in place. It's like saying right there, over there, over here. So let's just call it place. In that place, asher, that place. Ye shachat, he slaughter. So slaughter the sheep in that place. He slaughter. See what's happening here. It's being intensified. Et ha-chatat. There's your word for sin. There's a sin sacrifice. Why would you have to commit a sin? You just told us that he got dirty and he didn't violate the Torah. No, what he did, he's not guilty of a violation, but the fact that he's dirty is a violation. So what I was saying is you've done, just because you got the skin disease is no indication that you've done anything wrong. People get skin diseases for God only knows. Some people get it, some people don't, right? So it's not about that you've gone out and you've broken God's law on purpose. See, that's what we think of as sin. You've broken it on purpose. Well, not necessarily. Maybe you just got a skin disease. That's not breaking it on purpose. God is not punishing you with some disease because of what you did. So why the sin sacrifice? When you're dirty, when you have the disease, you are unclean. The sin sacrifice is to restore you to purity. So it's not that you've done something wrong. It is a sin sacrifice, but not because you did something wrong, but because as a result of what has happened to you, you are unclean, you are impure. So the purpose of a sin sacrifice is not punishment, it is purification. I hope you follow that. Then another word is ha'olah. Remember that? Hola. Howdy. That's what it means down here, right? Now this is a burnt offering. Then it says be mikom, in a place, hakodesh, in a holy place or in the holy place. And then we have the ha'asham. There's your word for, that's the name, le asham. I guess asham is really the word. I think I'm saying that. Yeah, I think I was saying because it said to for that sacrifice, and here it's just calling it the asham, the asham sacrifice. Okay, so then it's saying that sacrifice is la Cohen. It's for the priest. Then it says Kodesh Kadashim, Holy of Holies, right? But that's not the place, Holy of Holies. It is just saying that it is just for the priest. You're going to put it on there. You're going to slaughter this animal. You're going to cut it up. You're going to put it on the barbecue, and the priest is going to eat it, not the person who brought it. It is a gift for the priest to sustain the priesthood. All right, so our translation. And slaughter the sheep in the place of slaughter. The sin offering and the burnt offering in the holy place. And as the sin offering is for the priest, so is the asham offering. It is very holy. That's what they mean, Kodesh HaKodeshim. They're not talking about the Holy of Holies as some people know it. The inner part of where the Ark of God was sitting. That's not what they're talking about. They're saying it's very holy by saying Kodesh HaKodeshim. So you guys get that? Are you with me? And slaughter the sheep in the place of slaughter, the sin offering and the burnt offering in the holy place. And as the sin offering is for the priest, so is the asham offering. In other words, the sin offering is specifically for the priest. It's not for anybody else. So it's saying that this offering, the asham offering, is just like the sin offering. In other words, the priest gets this offering and the person gets none of it. You guys follow me? I hope you're following me. We can compare this to Leviticus 10:13. And you shall eat in the holy place, for it is your statute, and it is a statute for your children from the fire of Yahweh, because I have commanded it. Speaking of them eating it in the holy place. In other words, they're not taking it home. I guess that's what I should have pointed out a while ago. And then 10:14, and the breast of the wave offering and thigh of the heave offering you shall eat in the pure place. In other words, you're not taking it home. And you and your children and your daughters with you for your statute and your children's statute given from the peace offerings for the children. See, every offering had a name except this one. And it was connected to the idea of guilt and you did something wrong and punishment, right? Which is completely wrong. It's simply the name of the offering, which is where we've gone wrong. All right, verse 15, 10:15 says, the thigh of the heave offering and the breast of the wave offering on the burnt offering of the fats for the wave offering, you shall wave before the faces of Yahweh. It will be to you and your children with you for a statute as Yahweh has commanded. So when it says that it is as that other offering, that's what's being said here. It's this, it's for the priest and obviously his family. It is not going to be taken home. It's going to be eaten in the holy place, not the Holy of Holies, but the place is set aside for them to eat. There's some place that would have been set aside for that. And you can argue all you want to amongst yourselves about where that place is, but it'll be somewhere within the court. Okay, let's move on to 14, which says, Ve lakach hakohen midam ha'asham, ve natan hakohen al tenuch ozen ha-mitaher ha-yemanit ve al bohen yado ha-yemanit ve al bohen raglo ha-yemanit. All right, this is kind of a long one, but we've had most of these words, so it shouldn't be too bad. The velakak, that's that idea of to take a wife or just to reach over and take something from there and, take a cup of water and drink it. And that's, of course, the way it's been used here. HaKohen, so the Kohen's going to take midam. He's going to take from dam, the blood. Dam is blood. Adam, right? Because mankind is made of blood, or has a lot of blood anyway. It's connected to blood anyway. And the redness was not from ruddy skin like you read in some of the lexicons. No, the redness was the blood. Anyway. But so the Kohen is going to midam. He's going to lachach midam. He's going to take from the blood ha-asham of the asham offering. He's going to take the blood that comes from making that particular offering, that'd be the sheep here, then Natan, and give ha-Kohen al tenuch. He's going to give that blood to the Kohen, and upon the tip of the ear, the tenuch. Now, there's some people, I think it was Rashi who said it was the inner ear. Ew, no, don't you be sticking that in my ear. The whole point was to get clean. That ain't going to do it, right? Well, rubbing blood on it wouldn't get it clean either. Of course, going to have to immerse yourself after all this is over with. Then it says ozen, so the tip of the ear, not the interior. Like, I'm pretty sure it was Rashi who said that. I meant to say earlier, I thought that I had forgotten to do some of the work on this chapter because I started looking through it yesterday and I was like, well, there's no commentary anywhere. There's very little commentary. All of this today is coming off the top of my head. Why? Because, well, the sages didn't have anything to say about it. I mean, they had very little to say, and what they did say kind of didn't go with what was being said. So I'm having to pull it out of my head today. Anyway, ha-mitaher. Put the blood on the tip of the ear of the person who was purified. This is the word for to shine. That's been cleansed. You've been cleansed of the disease. It doesn't mean, it's not talking about the fact that he had washed his clothes and his body, which he has at this point before he got here, but it's talking about he has been cleansed, purified from the disease. And then it says ha yamanit, and that's the right hand. Bohan rather, that's the thumb of the right hand. And this is Yado, so that's hand, right? So Bohan's the thumb. Then it says Yado of his hand. So it's the right thumb. Let's see. What are some other words here? Hayemanit. Well, that's the right hand. The right. Oh, but it does say the Bohan Raglo. So it's the thumb of the foot. Now we call that the big toe, but in Hebrew it's the thumb of the foot. So know that that's the big toe. So I was just trying to give you some words that we haven't really talked too much about and kind of bring those back to mind. So here's my translation. And the priest will take from the blood of the Asham offering, and the priest will place it on the tip of his right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot of the purified person. So if there was any question as to, well, is the priest doing that to his ear? No, he's doing it to the purified person. It just came at the end of the sentence is all. Because there are people that try to say that that's on the priest and part of it goes on the person. And no, that's not how biblical Hebrew works. Anyway. What did I tell you? Oh, wow. I keep thinking I'm out of time, and I've got plenty of time. So let's go ahead and do verse 15. Velakach hakohen milog hashamen veyatzak al kaf hakohen hasema se malit. Milog is, you remember Milog. Log is the one that we're just calling a half liter right now because I don't know what the measurement is. The sages teach that it's half liter. I have my doubts, but I don't know. They may be right. But they've added the me to the front of it, me log, so it's from the liter. Then it says hashamin, from the liter of fat. So here he's going to take from it. He's not using it all. He's just using whatever he can get here. Because what are we doing? He's going to take from that, and it says veyatzak. That's to pour out. It's like you have a pitcher, and it has not a picture, but a pitcher, and it has, say, liquid in it, and you hold it and turn it. It's to pour, right? And he pour literally. So that's our word there. Then it uses the word cough, and I don't know if it's probably been a very long time since we've had this word, but the cough, that's the palm of your hand. So he's going to pour this in the palm of his hand. Sorry, I'm doing that backwards. Probably looked right to you though. It's backwards, Anyway. Then it says ha semalit. That's the left. So he's going to take from the oil and pour it into his left palm. And the word kaf, kuf, that's a cup. It's a cupping. It's so that you can put, say, liquid in it, or you put anything in it actually, but it's the rounding off, if you will. It can be flat and just be round above it. But that's why the word is used of a palm, because it has that, like a palm leaf, it has that bow in it. And so that's the connection to the hand. That's why that word is used, because it looks like a palm leaf. Anyway, just useless knowledge. So verse 15 says, and the priest will take from the half liter, and I have a little square bracket, see verse 12, of fat and pour it on the left palm of the priest. You need to know he's doing this to himself. He's not doing this to that guy. The blood went on the ear, but the oil's going in his hand. So we have 16. Veritaval hakohen et etzba'o hayemanit min hashemen asher al kapo hasemalit. Sound familiar? Vehiza min hashemen ve'etzo sheva pe'amim lipnei Yahweh. Tell me, how many of those words sound really, really familiar to you? And how many of those words that you pretty much know at this point? Just saying, you probably learned an awful lot of Hebrew here lately. So we have veritaval. That's a new word. That's to dip, to immerse. And it can be used of several things, because biblically speaking, you could say so-and-so dipped his toe in the water. Of course, we think of, okay, so he took a toe and dipped the toe. No, that means they jumped all the way into the water. He immersed himself. It's really the word for immersion. It's the word Yochanan HaMativil. This is from this same word, John the Baptist, right? So think of it as immersion. But it can still be dip. I mean, you take a paintbrush and dip it in a paint bucket, and sling it. That'd be the next thing that'll happen. But it's just saying you can dip that in. It doesn't mean that the whole thing has to go in. The whole thing has to be soaked. But generally speaking, when they use taval, they're talking about a whole body going underwater. But that doesn't mean that it has to, unless it's been specified, because the word itself doesn't have that meaning. It's just the idea of dipping. So let's see, what else do we have? And then etzba'o, that's finger. Etzba, the finger. The O sound at the end means he or his, so his finger. This says hayemanit, that's the finger of the right hand. Then it says min hashemen, from the oil. So he's dipping his finger in the oil, and he's taking from the oil that was in the, it says capo, that was in his hand. Ha semalit, in his left hand. Let's see, have we had this word? Yeah, vehiza, and spatter. Remember I said dip it in the paint and then you sling it? That's what this word means. The hiza, that's to sling it, to spatter it, to make it spray. We got the word for, okay, the sheva, that's a word we haven't had in a long time. That's the number 7. Then we have pa'amim, 7 times. That's amim is 7 times, or pe'amim, sorry. And we said sheva pe'amim, 7 times before God. All right, so here's our translation. And the priest will dip the finger of his right hand from the oil that is in his left palm and spatter the oil from his left palm from the oil with his finger 7 times. In other words, because I know that sounds weird, but he's going to stick his finger in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. That's exactly what was just said. And it says 7 times in the presence of Yahweh. So it paints a pretty clear picture of what's supposed to happen, doesn't it? All right, let's move on to 17 then. It says, Umi yeter hashemen asher al kapo yiten hakohen al tenuch. Do you remember that? Ozen ha-mi taher ha-yemanit ve'al bohen yado ha-yemanit ve'al bohen raglo ha-yemanit al dam ha-asham. right? So again, you probably know what most of this means already. Isn't that amazing? Listen to it long enough, you start to get it, right? We have umi yeter, and we've had the word before, but not in a long time. This is leftover. It means remainder, or that which remains. We could say it that way. The image comes from when the Jews used to build their tents, they'd use rope and they would tie it up. And when you tie up a rope, there's a little leftover at the end past the knot. That's the remainder. In that case, it's not even something that's worth much, right? It's not worth anything really. But this is the word for remainder. So it's literally and from remainder, or we would say and from that which remains would be how we would say that in English, most likely. The oil, because it has hashemen, kapo, the palm, ka, and then o, his palm. Yiten, that's give, to cause, to receive. It's real giving. It's not offering to give and then not showing up and not give. They give it to the Kohen, put it on the tip of the ear. That was that tenuch ozen, the tip of the ear. Hey, Mom, everything's okay. Some of you will get that reference. Hami taher, the one who was purified. So that's who's getting this done to him. And then ha yemanit, that's the right hand upon the thumb of the hand. And then it says, of course, it says right hand again. This is bohan, the thumb, raglo of, it says foot, of his foot. And it says dam, so it's the blood. For the asham offering. So here's our translation. And from the remainder of the oil that is in the palm, the priest will place it on the tip of the right ear of the person who is purified, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, over the blood of the asham offering. So remember, a while ago, he took it and he put it on the tip of the ear, he put it on the right thumb and on the right toe. I'm not sure I made that clear, but that is what the translation said, and because that's what it means. And here it's saying now he's dipping that finger, he's slung the oil 7 times, and now he's taking the remainder of that oil, and he's going to touch that ear again, he's going to put it on the thumb, he's going to put it on the toe again. Very symbolic stuff. And there's some people that talk about, well, the touching of the ear means this, and the touching of the hand means that, but if the Bible doesn't tell us what that means, we don't know. And by the way, it doesn't tell us. So anything that is said by any sage about what all that means is pure speculation. Maybe it's right, but most likely it's not. Keep that in mind when you're reading the sages. They're not right about a whole lot of stuff. Why? Were they evil, terrible people? No. Remember, much of what we know about biblical Hebrew grammar came as a result of the doctoral work done by Umberto Cassuto at the Hebrew University. He studied the Ugaritic text that predates the Bible, and then did a comparative study. First he studied that text, and then he made the comparative study of that to the Torah, and realized that the Torah was written in the exact same style as the Ugaritic, using the exact same grammar. So we now fully understand biblical grammar in a way that the sages never knew about. They didn't know any of this stuff. So they got an awful lot wrong because they were just stabbing in the dark. They were doing the best they could. And sometimes they got it right. Unfortunately, more often than not, they got it wrong. That's all I have to say about that. Okay. Yeah, let's do at least one more, maybe two. We have verse 18. Ve'ha notar bashemen asher al kaf hakohen yiten al rosh hami taher ve'chiper alav hakohen lipnei Yahweh. A couple of new ones there. And then you remember that the hanotar is the remainder, right? The leftover of what? Bashemen, the oil or fat, whatever you want to call it. Remember kaf, the palm? The Kohen will give or place it upon what? The rosh, the head. Hami taher, of the purified person. So he's gotten the blood on his tip of his ears, the thumb and the foot, and then the oil went on the tip of his ear, the thumb and the foot, and now whatever's left over, now he's going to get a good Pentecostal dousing. Anyone of you who know about going to church and getting prayed for at a Pentecostal church know exactly what I'm talking about. I came down with a skin rash years ago, and I was perplexed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get rid of this. This thing was making me miserable. And so I went to a Pentecostal church, and that preacher reached out there and just doused me. I mean, it was dripping off of me. But you know what? I was healed. Just saying. This is vechiper. To cover over. It's a covering. This is from that same word. This is a covering. Alav hakohen lipnei Yahweh. Oh, darny. Yeah, I forgot to widen this thing up, so it's not going to be able to show it to you. Yeah, let's try to work. Go to the computer for me, please. Sorry about that. I just forgot to stretch this out where you can see it. Now I can't do it because it's a HTML. On the 8th day, after a person is pronounced 2 1-year-old male lamb. 2, the cleansed person will purchase wine, 3/10 of fine flour, and mix it with fat. The cleansed person will bring or purchase 1 1/2 liter of oil. And that's if we've got the amount right. I suspect it's not. That's what it is. Now, number 5, the cleansed person will stand at the entrance of the Ohel Moed of the tent of meetings with his offering, and the priest with the priest, I guess it should have said. So the purified person is now 6. The priest will take the first sheep and perform a, it should say asham offering, 1/2 liter of fat. The priest will wave the parts of the slaughtered lamb. 8, the priest will slaughter the sheep in the normal place, the holy place, the normal. 9, the meat offering. That's why these are all spelled wrong. The meat of the asham offering is given to the priest to eat. 10, the priest will dip his finger in the blood of the sheep and smear some on the right earlobe, on the right thumb, and on the big toe. 11, the priest will take from 1/2 the liter of the fat and pour it in his palm. And then the priest will dip his right finger in the oil that's in his left palm, oil on the healed person 7 times. Then the priest will smear some of the oil from his left palm on the tip of the right ear, the right thumb, the right foot, over the same place that he just put the blood from the asham offering. The priest will smear what is left of the oil in his left palm on the head of the healed person. And then 15, the priest will make a sin offering out of the second sheep. 16, the priest will make a burnt offering out of the third sheep. 17, the priest will make a gift offering from the fine flour and fat and oil. That we would have to assume which is left over. We haven't gotten to the last couple of them. But see, it breaks down to a pretty simple little thing, right? I know I'm dragging it out and trying to give you every little detail and tidbit that I can possibly give you to really help you understand it. But I think in the end, once you've gone through that and see that, it makes it pretty easy, right? Just take that L out of that word. I did a copy and paste on. The first time it was Le Asham because it was for the sacrifice, the Asham sacrifice. Then it was Ha Asham, the sacrifice. I did a copy and paste and got myself in trouble there. Oh, I am totally out of time. We'll pick up with verse 18 this next Shabbat, God willing, and the creek don't rise too high. Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
The blessing, Be'ivrit. Yavarecha Yahweh beyish merecha. Ya'er Yahweh panai v'lecha vihunecha. Yisa Yahweh panai v'lecha v'yasim lecha shalom. And in English, may Yahweh cause you to lie down so that you may rest. May he touch and caress you. May he prepare you for what is ahead. May he watch over you. May he keep you from harm. May he cause goodness to grow in you and take away the bad. May he arrange your life and cause you to flourish. May he cheer you up and gladden your heart. May he cause his light to shine through you. May he show you tenderness, favor, and love in his presence. May he show you kindness and be delicate towards you. May he show you his generosity, mercy, compassion, and desire for you as it comes forth from the depths of his soul. May he lift you out of your pit and deliver you from the things that hold you prisoner. May he draw you to his chest and cast his eyes on yours. May he show you his love and desire for you as he cradles you in his arms. May he bear your punishment and pardon you of your sin. May he take you for his bride. May he establish a foundation in you. May he place his name on your heart and mind and make your body his temple. May you be his treasure. May you always be on his mind. May he draw you near and comfort you when you are afraid. May he assure you there is nothing to fear because he is with you. May you and all that concerns you be at peace because he is your friend. Amen.